Welcome in, whiskey freaks, to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. Today we break down the top 10 reasons why Canada should finally drop the bullshit routine and just become America's 51st state. I say, Tim Hortons for everybody, right? But yeah, no, we will not be doing that. Today, we focus on nothing but bourbony goodness, because I've got all kinds of things to throw your way, and we might even learn something today. No joke, guys. This is a big one. I want to talk about historic flooding at Buffalo Trace. It's actually closed them down for a little while. We've got new releases from Jim Beam, Lux Row, Maker's Mark, and Wild Turkey. We're going to find out who won Best American Whiskey from the 2025 World Whiskies Awards, and a few others as well. We're going to talk about whiskeys that are on the way, stuff that's coming, but we don't quite know just exactly when it'll be here. And I've got a sad story about our friends at Garrard County Distilling. If you remember those cats, I've talked about them a few times. They got big problems. And finally, I review something, it's a bourbon whiskey, and it's kind of an emergency review, at least in my mind, and I'll explain that in just a bit. So here's the deal. Serious subject here first, guys, and this hits close to home since the wife's folks live down in Kentucky, not too awful far from Frankfort, and our good friends at Buffalo Trace have just been devastated by floodwaters from historic levels of rain they got last week. I think this is the second highest floodwater level at the distillery in the 200 years they've been there. And if you go inside some of their warehouses, you can see the marks on the wall from the last flood. And gosh, I can't remember when that one took place, but it was a long time ago. Anyway, they've been devastated by floodwaters. The entire state is a complete mess right now. The latest as of April 9th is that they're going to be closed for a couple more days at least. I can't believe, I've seen photos of the inside of the gift shop and some of the other things. It's a disaster. If they're open in the next 2 weeks, I'd be surprised. All the best of them, prayers, the best of luck. They're going to need it. And I know they're a big company, and sometimes I rail on them. There's people that work there. There's lots of people that work at and for Buffalo Trace Distillery. So thoughts and prayers to them. Hopefully they can get it together really soon. And keep in mind, the visitors that come to Kentucky and the local businesses around Frankfort and the state, they rely on this tourism to survive. There's not a lot going on in some places in Kentucky, and in bourbon and whiskey, it's going on. So it carries the communities to a certain degree. So thoughts and prayers to Buffalo Trace and everyone affected by the floodwaters. So we've got a tariff war, we've got a whiskey glut, and we got all kinds of strife going on in the stock market. We got the flooding in Kentucky. But I actually have some good news, kids. And I mean lots of good news. We got tons of new releases coming out. And I want to start with Jim Beam Distillery. You know, I love Jim Beam. I love a lot of what they do down there. And they just came out with the new Booker's, and they've released its first bourbon of 2025, and they're calling it Barry's Batch, in its honor of Barry Barish. He's the former Jim Beam chairman and CEO. He passed away, I think it was last year, after 40 years with the company. And the new release is a tribute to Barish, who's a close friend of 7th generation master distiller Fred Noe. Let me tell you a little bit about Barry's Batch. They say it continues Booker's tradition of naming special batches after important figures in Beam's history. Fred Noe, praised Barish for his significant impact, recalling how Barish organized a grand event in '95 to celebrate Beam's 200 years in the whiskey business. Anyway, the bourbon itself, it's made from a mix of barrels from 5 different warehouses and 4 production dates. It's aged for 7 years, 2 months, and 4 days, because they're very specific there. And it's bottled at a strong 125.7 proof. The result? They say it's a whiskey with a bright golden amber color and an inviting aroma of vanilla with a hint of sweetness from its aging in new oak barrels. I've got to believe it's got a little bit more going on than that, but that's what they're telling us. Barry's Batch, it's priced at a very affordable $99.99, and It's limited edition, of course, because it's Booker's. I know you can get it there at the gift shop at Jim Beam, and be on the lookout for neighborhood bars and liquor stores. Lux Row. They've got a new cask finished offering. Because if you've got an old barrel laying around, might as well age something in it, right? So Lux Row Distillers has released a new small batch bourbon finished in Albarino wine casks. And it's a first for Lux Row. This limited edition whiskey, it blends 4-year-old wheated and high rye bourbons, and then it finishes them for 6 months in barrels that once held Albarino. It's a crisp white wine known for citrusy flavors and a touch of salinity. They say the result is a 105 proof bourbon that kicks off with aromas of nectarine, lime, grapefruit, and a classic whiskey note. On the palate, expect traditional bourbon flavors layered with lemon zest, honeydew melon, and a subtle hint of acidity and sea salt. Kind of makes me think a little bit of Jefferson's there. Anyway, Lux Row's master distiller John Rempe said the goal was to mix the bright fruitiness of Albarino with the sweet corn-forward flavor of bourbon, and the final product delivers a unique, flavorful twist. And it actually does sound pretty awesome. This special release is only available at Lux Row Distillers in Bardstown, Kentucky at their gift shop. It started, I think, last week. So, 750 milliliter bottle, yay. It will cost you just $59.99. So, if you're into adventurous bourbon finishes, this one might be worth the trip. And that one actually sounds good if I get down there. Maker's Mark, Star Hill Farm. Okay. So this one is Maker Mark's first new recipe in 70 years. And Maker's Mark has introduced Star Hill Farm. It's a new wheat whiskey that represents a major shift, not just in taste, but in how the brand grows its ingredients. Okay, that's what they say, not me. Those are not my words. Instead of focusing only on the distillery process, which is probably what we ought to do, Maker's Mark is now zeroing in on how farming impacts flavor. And that led them to regenerative agriculture. Farming that avoids tilling the soil, and it cuts down on chemicals, and it uses techniques like cover crops and managed grazing to restore soil health. The company's 1,100-acre estate and its grain suppliers have now been regenified, certified for using sustainable farming practices. A lot of buzzwords, a lot of bullshit there. According to master distiller Dr. Blake Layfield, the wheat grown this way had noticeably better flavor, I don't believe that, more intensity, complexity, and depth. And that, my friends, is bullshit. Anyway, Star Hill Farm isn't bourbon, since it doesn't meet the legal requirement of at least 51% corn. It's a wheat whiskey. It's aged somewhere between 7 and 8 years. It's in mixed oak casks. Don't know what that means. It's bottled at 114 proof. And I mean, that's kind of right in that realm there for makers. Some of their, like the cask strength type of stuff. Okay, great. They're pricing it at, unfortunately, $125 for a 750. Sounds high to me for 114 proof when you can get for $33 or $34 the cask strength, and it's fantastic. But anyway, that's their deal. The good folks at Makers say it offers a rich and creamy profile with notes of white chocolate, jasmine, which sounds terrible, citrus peel, cinnamon, and toffee apple. And it would, I know it would cost half that if they weren't worried so much about solar energy and sustainability and buzzwords, right? It just means what they're doing right now with regenerative farming, just means doing what farmers already do most of the time. And let me explain a little bit about regenerative farming. And it sounds great. It's a fun buzzword. It's just like saying sustainability. Ask 100 people what that means. They have no idea what you're talking about, but you're supposed to say the word. It's a fancy term for what farmers already do. Now, they're going to tell you regenerative farming promotes soil health, crop rotation, reduced chemical use, all that good stuff. But traditional farmers have been doing this type of farming for centuries. I know this. We've had farmers in our family for 200 years. And the idea that it's some revolutionary breakthrough it's really just repackaged marketing BS. Listen, many farmers already manage soil nutrients, right? And they minimize erosion because their livelihoods depend on how long-term productivity is at their farm. If they destroy the soil in their farm, they're signing their own death warrant. So this stuff feels good from Maker's Mark, but it only leads to, guess what, guys? Higher prices for you. Regenerative farming requires more labor-intensive techniques, which means higher costs. Oh, it's true. Usually at a cost of 20 to 30% more. And look, placing less reliance on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, I think we can all agree that we should use the bare minimum of things that could impact our environment. But in many cases, that means lower yields and more crop losses. So if we're actually getting less back and we're losing more, do we really gain anything? And in the end, it raises prices for consumers. Use your brains, people. If they have to run the tractors over the farm 6 more times a season because of no pesticides and no all that good stuff, they're using a ton more diesel fuel, carbon, fossil fuel, all that gibberish. If Maker's Mark's using regenerative farming for their grains, ask this question: is the whiskey really better, or is it just more expensive? Honestly, go ahead, grab a bottle, see for yourself. On this one, I'm going to pass. I want to get prices down so we can all enjoy this stuff. And like I said, you can pick up a Maker's cask strength at 113 or 114 proof for less than $40. So if you want to pay $125 for this, knock yourself out. But just one more reason I love Jim Beam. They're putting out stuff under $100 you can find all the time. It's fantastic stuff. I don't hear a lot of this gobbledygook coming from Jim Beam, and I hope I don't. I got one last thing to say, Maker's Mark. Your whiskey might be sustainable, but my budget isn't. How about that? Oh, I almost forgot. And I talked about Lux Row a minute ago. I almost forgot. They have a new release, and this one, I probably shouldn't have forgotten about it. It's Blood Oath Pact 11, and it's coming very soon. Here are the release details. It's going to be available for purchase starting at 9:30 a.m. on April 26th. That's coming up pretty soon at Lux Row Distillers in their gift shop in Bardstown, Kentucky. They say sales are limited to 1 bottle per person with no holds or shipping, all that good stuff. And they're going to have snacks and other sampling opportunities there at the gift shop at that time, I guess, to celebrate the drop. For those who can't make it in person, it looks like they're going to have 17,000 cases that they're putting out, and they're going to hit retailers sometime in April with a suggested price of $129.99 per bottle. That sounds great. I am going to talk to my guy and see if I can get one of those. The year's blend combines 3 rare bourbons finished in añejo tequila barrels for added depth, because we got to finish everything. According to Master Distiller John Rempe, the flavor profile begins with vanilla and black pepper, leading to cherry, citrus, and a smooth finish of black cherry and dark chocolate. Okay. And so that's what you need to know about Blood Oath Pact 11. Wild Turkey. They have, this is fun. Wild Turkey 101 8-year. It's aged 8 year now, and you're going to be able to get it here in the United States finally. For the first time since 1992, Wild Turkey is bringing 101 bourbon with an 8-year age statement back to shelves in the United States. And they say this version's been available overseas in Japan, Korea, Australia, but we have not been able to get it here in the U.S. So it's coming back, and it kind of makes me think, since they put out that special bottle for Jimmy this last summer, that must have went over well. I mean, I know I loved it. I absolutely adored it, and I'm glad I picked up 2 bottles of it. So keep looking for that. Let's see. Bruce Russell, associate master blender and Jimmy's grandson, said the delay in bringing this back to the United States was mainly due to inventory. Well, duh. They said the distillery needed to age enough barrels to support a full U.S. launch. And we all know that there's a whiskey glut. The whiskey is piling up in the warehouses. So now the stock is ready. And Bruce Russell, the grandson of Jimmy, says the bourbon is ready now too. And you can get it quite easily if you're willing to pay. A suggested retail price of $45 for a 750 milliliter bottle. I know the special Jimmy's bottle was $50 at the distillery initially and then elsewhere. $45, I'll probably be willing to pay that when I run out of what I have here, but gosh, I wish they would have priced it around the $35 to $40 range, but you got to understand they got to make some money too. And real quick now, I want to touch on the possibilities, the future of our whiskey world. What are we going to see that hasn't yet been released? Now, I did this on the last full episode of the pod, and it went over pretty well, so here it is again. I want to talk about whiskeys that are on the way. Now, I explained that distilleries submit their bottle label with their new designs or whatever through the TTB, the good loving folks at the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, the federal government here in the United States. The TTB reviews the new labels. They make sure they comply with all the standards and the rules and all that good stuff. And that process usually takes a few weeks. Now, if the label meets their requirements, the TTB approves it, allowing the distillery to use the label on their bottles. I say all that to say this. I like to look to the future, and I'm actually kind of get excited about what new stuff is going to be coming or may be coming down the pike. I'm going to share some of the more interesting labels I've seen that are most likely coming our way in the very near future. The first one I see coming down the pike, and I hope it's coming down the pike, is the 19th edition of Parker's Heritage. And this one's called American Straight Whiskey. So this might be coming, folks. Probably is. It's bottled at cask strength, 122.5 proof. It'll be a blend of 16-year-old wheated bourbon, 11-year-old corn whiskey, and 12-year-old whiskey made from only 2 grains, rye and malt. Now, last year's release was, I think, in September, so I'm assuming that's when we'll see this one roundabout there. So keep your eyes peeled for that, the 19th edition of Parker's Heritage. Another one to be watching for is AC/DC Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It's coming to us courtesy of Asante Spirits out of Minnesota, where their motto up there at Asante is Asante Spirits, rural in its heart, punk rock in its soul. Okay. So these guys they're into rock and roll to some degree, so maybe this makes sense for them and what they're doing. This whiskey, the AC/DC whiskey, will be bottled by Asante at 90 proof and feature the iconic lightning bolt and name of AC/DC on the label. But here's the kicker. The label says the distillate is from Bardstown, Kentucky, so not sure exactly what's going on here, but keep your eye out for this one if you dig banned booze. And last one to look for soon is Barrel Bourbon Batch 037. Now, it looks like it's going to be similar in many ways to 036 in that it will be a cask strength at 111.38 proof, and the blend will be a 10-year Kentucky bourbon whiskey, 8, 11, and 12-year Indiana bourbon whiskeys, and 13, 14, and 15-year-old Tennessee whiskeys. Would hate to be the blender on this one. It'll be in the 750 milliliter bottle. So, yay for that. And the good folks at Barrel say Batch 037 is a sophisticated blend with notes of dark chocolate, toffee, spiced orange, banana, and honey. And I could see a lot of those notes with all that Tennessee influence in it. So, I don't know, to me it sounds amazing. I like those darker notes like that, those rich notes. So, it's a great proof point, all that good stuff. I just don't know what it'll be priced at. I think the 036 was right around $90, so you can bet this one will be at least that much. So that may be coming down the pike. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that these distillers will ever use the labels. And that's my disclaimer here, kids. They'll probably use them. I mean, think about it. What's the point of wasting all the time and energy and money to design a label and jump through the hoops if you're never going to use it? That's my logic anyway, and that's my disclaimer. Okay, whiskey freaks, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one, but I feel like I got to at least mention it. The World Whiskies Awards, 2025 American whiskey winners. And I know, I've been rough on a lot of these whiskey award deals, but this one to me is different, at least in my mind. They've got an incredibly rigorous process they use to select and blind taste these whiskeys, and I like that. And let me explain just briefly. So these whiskeys are judged blind, meaning tasters don't know the brand or the bottle that they're evaluating. The judging panel consists of top whiskey experts. Now, maybe some of those are questionable. I don't know, because they include distillers, which I love. They include writers, which I don't love, and critics, which I also don't love. But I think generally this is one of the better whiskey awards going on out there. The part I like most here is it's a multi-stage process. So initial judging happens in whiskey-heavy regions like Kentucky for American whiskey. Then finalists are reevaluated in Washington, D.C. Then eventually global winners are chosen in London. So tastings are done blind, and like I said, for American whiskey, the tastings are done first in Kentucky, and why would you not? So, like I said, of all the competitions, I like this one best. That's just me. I feel like it's more legit, and that's that. So these are some of the 2025 American whiskey category winners. I'm not going to go through everything. There's a gigantic list. I don't like gigantic lists, and you probably don't either, but you probably want to know some of the top winners. The world's best bourbon, as they say at the 2025 World Whiskey Awards, is Old Fitz 2024 VVS 13-year-old bottled in bond. A lot to say there. So this is very, very special. That's their very, very special series. It's only released in limited batches every year, and it's damn near impossible to get your hands on. I think it was around $230 last time it came out, but I've seen it on secondary for mucho hundreds more. It's just another Heaven Hill unicorn. You're probably never going to see it. You might never even taste it. But hey, it's the best in the world. The runner-up, and this is one that I found fascinating, is Old Elk High Malt Straight Bourbon. It comes in at 92 proof. So these guys at Old Elk, they're out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And this bourbon, like I said, it's runner-up for world's best. They say it's got an unusual mash bill, which I suppose could contribute to that unique or special flavor profile that might have helped it to get runner-up for this one. I don't know. The mash is a super high malt mash bill, which consists of 51 corn, 34 malted barley, and 15% rye. And they say ultimately the malt, it gives the bourbon a smoother, creamier texture and adds a depth of flavor that's different from other bourbons. I can see that. That's probably why they got second place this year. Nicely done. Colorado, gonna have to be added to the calendar. Don't tell my wife. So world's best American style whiskey. I don't know what that means exactly, but Jack Daniel's Bonded Triple Mash at 100 proof won. They say it's got tasting notes of caramel, orchard fruits, rye spice, toasted oak, and vanilla. World's best Tennessee whiskey. Jack Daniel's again. Jack Daniel's Tennessee 12-year-old batch number 2, 53.5% ABV. Caramelized sugar, toasted oak, dark fruit, spice, light smoke. And this one was interesting to me. I don't care for Uncle Nearest, but evidently they loved it at the World Whiskey Awards. The runner-up for Best Tennessee Whiskey was Uncle Nearest Master Blend Edition, batch number 32. Don't know anything about it, at 59% ABV. World's Best Small Batch Bourbon. This one really grabbed my attention. This one's from Boulder Spirits 2024 Cask Strength Bourbon. They say it's got tasting notes of vanilla, caramel, toasted oak, rye spice, warm finish. Okay, so a little bit about these cats. I wanted to know more about Boulder Spirits. Never heard of them before. Other offerings they have include several American whiskeys. They've got some gins. They've got the Boulder American Single Malt, Bourbon Cask Strength 2024. That was the big winner. And Boulder American Single Malt Peated Malt, which doesn't sound good. These guys are up and comers, clearly, and I think we need to keep an eye on Boulder Spirits. Runner-up for Best Small Batch, 1792 Small Batch, which I'm a little surprised about that. I'd like to know really what were they up against. No, I'm not throwing shade at 1792. It's a good pour. It's a nice cheap pour, really, for $35 at Walmart. You can pick it up. I mean, I guess somebody had to win this competition, but I don't know. 1792 best in runner-up for best in the world. I don't know. Just something to think about. The world's best single barrel bourbon was Blanton's Straight from the Barrel. And we all know what that's got going on. Dark chocolate, dried fruit, baking spice, rich oak, fiery finish. I've always found it to be quite sweet on the palate. Maybe a little overly sweet, but that's just me. So world's best single barrel bourbon was Blanton straight from the barrel. And the runner-up would be Tumblin' Dice Single Barrel Bourbon at 56.9 ABV. Okay, Colorado. It just keeps popping up here in this list. This is another one from the Mile High State. And so we have yet another distillery, Tumblin' Dice from Colorado. Like I said, I'm going to have to put Colorado on the itinerary here. They clearly have got a ton of good whiskey out there. Best American Wheat Whiskey, Bainbridge 2 Islands Hokkaido Cask. Comes in 124 proof. Okay, never heard of these cats. Bainbridge 2 Islands. But don't worry, kids. I looked it up for you. Bainbridge Island, Washington State. Bainbridge Distillery. It's known for producing small batch craft spirits using locally sourced ingredients, including a focus on whiskeys that showcase the distinctive flavors of the Pacific Northwest. So what they mean here is because of their pristine locale, they've got clean air, they say. They've got super clean water. The grains from that region, the water and the climate, all that stuff comes together to create what they claim is a distinctive flavor in their whiskey. And Bainbridge Island, being surrounded by Puget Sound, they've got that, like I said, they've got that clean, mineral-rich water from the surrounding mountains. So that's their claim to fame there at Bainbridge 2 Islands, Hokkaido Cask, Best American Wheat Whiskey this year. Very interesting stuff. Best American Rye Whiskey, Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Kentucky Straight Rye, 61.6 ABV. I got no complaints there. Thank you, Heaven Hill. Appreciate that. Best American, almost done, kids. Almost done with the list. I'm not going to belabor this. Best American Single Malt, because single malt is so big right now in the country and the world. Had to talk about this one. Balcones Texas 1 Single Malt, and that comes in at 106 proof. Last one I've got is Best American Corn Whiskey, and this comes from Iron Root Republic. It's Iron Root Hubris Corn at 58.9% ABV. Okay, these dudes at Iron Root Republic, and they're from Texas, so what I'm wanting to know, is this just another mellow corn? And according to the good folks at the World Whiskey Awards, they say it is not just another mellow corn. It is actually Best American Corn Whiskey. And so I want to know, what should we know about these guys at Iron Root? Clearly, we should keep an eye on them, right? If they're winning big awards like this. Well, like I said, they're from Texas. And they say this Iron Root Hubris corn, it's a rich, full-bodied whiskey that showcases the intense flavors of the corn, which is the primary base of the spirit. Duh. Okay, so they don't disclose the mash bill on this one, but what they say is it is corn-focused, like very high corn content in the mash. Tasting notes include notes of caramel, vanilla, and a hint of buttered popcorn. Sounds awesome. Toasted wood, spicy undertones, while the high proof offers a strong, warming finish. So, fun fact here, the whiskey is named Hubris for a reason. They say it's a bold statement of craftsmanship. This whiskey is perfect for those who appreciate a strong, flavorful corn whiskey with complexity and a smooth, satisfying finish. And there's that word, smooth. Yeah, anyway. It won Best American Corn Whiskey. There you go. There's a few more here on this list. This list is extensive, not expensive, although it would be expensive. It's extensive. And I'm kind of bored with it. So I'm moving on right now. We hit the highlights, maybe even learned something today. Look, I promise, and I deliver.
Apologies for this interruption, but we have some breaking news.
Okay. Now, I say this with much chagrin, angst, some other adjectives and adverbs and things that I can't mention, maybe some expletives. Garrard County Distilling. They got a big problem. They got a big mess at this new distillery. Now, less than 14 months after opening Garrard County Distilling in Lancaster, Kentucky, they're saying temporarily shut down due to financial issues. This 250, and this is from WLEX 18 in Lexington. The $250 million distillery owned by Atlanta-based Staghorn was built to be one of the largest new independent distilleries in the United States, with plans to fill up to 150,000 barrels a year. It opened in January 2024 with major ambitions, including building 24 rickhouses by 2030. But trouble soon followed. Okay, listen to this, guys. The contractor who built the distillery has sued them now for $2.2 million and filed a lien against the distillery. Another lien has been reported, and the distillery has now furloughed its workers. Now, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, I think they're done. But they're calling it temporary, and they furloughed. All right? The phone line has been disconnected. And remember a couple weeks ago when I told you we tried to visit them? The gate was locked. Nobody answered the phone. Nobody replied on social media. And get this, founder Ray Franklin, who led this project, he's left the company. And master distiller Lisa Wicker, she's also left too. Oh, there's more here. They're also involved in lawsuits over a collapsed warehouse roof and a crane accident, and reportedly owes over $250,000 in back taxes. So for now, they say the future of Garrard County Distilling is uncertain, reflecting a broader slowdown in Kentucky's bourbon industry. That's what they're saying in this story. But I've got thoughts on this, and they say here it reflects a slowdown in the bourbon world. But if you're not an idiot, you can see they had much bigger issues here at Garrard County Distilling than market pressures and tariffs, right? It burns me up. These guys were, just like a few weeks ago, these guys were added to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and they accepted that honor. And they didn't say anything, not a damn thing, about the troubles they've been having. And that's a question that the Kentucky Bourbon Trail folks were just like, oh, no big deal, right? Garrard County, come on in. So that raises some red flags for me. That sounds a little sus. And another thought, I'm pissed. Now, I've told you guys how excited I was to basically have a distillery that was supposed to eventually be a good one, right in the backyard of my in-laws. I mean, we're talking 5 miles from the house. And that's all clearly up in the air now. I'm pissed at these hardworking folks in the county, Garrard County, the one that nobody can pronounce, in the town Lancaster that nobody can pronounce. These folks are screwed now. It takes a small army of folks to build and run a distillery this big. And now, after they thought this new source of jobs in the county was here, these folks, they get the shaft. These guys owe it to Lancaster and the county and the surrounding area, for that matter, to have their shit together and run their business, not run it into the ground. I want to know who's to blame. I want to know who's to blame for what looks like to me a ton of ineptitude. And for those of you with infinity bottles, ineptitude means they don't know what the hell they're doing, and downright stupidity. And I know this may be temporary. I don't know. I can't predict the future, right? They say it's temporary. Maybe they'll get their stuff together. But my guess, this is a long-term problem that might not get figured out for months or years. I mean, it's not like anybody's knocking down their door to help them out or look to buy it or acquire another distillery in this climate right now. So I reached out to my guy at Garrard County Distilling. And yeah, I got a guy, their public relations guy. And he told me, and I'm going to quote what he told me just a couple days ago. He told me, and I quote, "It appears the plant is shut, but I don't have any more information than that." So think about that. Does that sound to you like we're temporarily shut down? We're going to open up soon. We have high aspirations. We've got high hopes. No, it does not. I don't know what's going on there. I'm pissed off about it. They've racked up back taxes. They've got liens from unpaid work, and they've sent the employees home, quote, temporarily. Yeah, right. Amazing stuff here, kids. Okay. I'll calm down. I told you all when I was in Kentucky a few weeks ago, I picked up a bottle of their bourbon. They call their bourbon All Nations Bourbon Whiskey. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to review it today. And it kind of irritates me that I'm kind of being forced to review it today. I had other things on my list that I wanted to do ahead of this one. I already had it picked out and I already had some preliminary thoughts about it. But things about it I was going to share with you. But now here we are, right? Garrard County's closed. So in just a bit here today, I'm going to review the All Nations. And you're probably wondering, why in the hell? Why would I even bother reviewing this stuff? And you're thinking, Stark, you're kind of a dumbass. And I say, well, yeah, it's possible, but if, and I say if it's any good, you can probably still get some at the liquor barn or various other places before it's all gone. Because if it's good stuff, you might want to get your hands on it. Maybe it'll be a unicorn, right? And my wife told me that. She's like, it might be a unicorn now. Yeah, I don't think it's a unicorn. But we're going to find out. Now, keep in mind, they may be back up and running soon. That's true. I don't know, but it really doesn't look good to me. So I'm going to review it, and then you do whatever you feel you need to do. And remember, I was going to review it anyway soon, so I just had to bump it up on my schedule due to the craziness we're seeing going on at Garrard County. And that leads me straight into what I'm going to review today. This is the fun part, kids. Today, I'm cracking open All Nations Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Like I said before, I'm doing this one as kind of an emergency review, right? Maybe a bit dramatic, I know, but I'm doing it because Garrard County Distilling appears to be defunct, or at least it's on hiatus. But let's be real, things aren't looking good. My question is, things aren't looking good for them, but is this whiskey any good? And if it is, how long will you have to grab one before it's all gone? So here we go. All Nations Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Now, the shtick, because you got to have a shtick, right? And their shtick was really kind of an accidental brand they say they stumbled into. And the story goes like this. While they were looking for a place for a site for their new distillery, the history of the county came up with some of the local folks. And the history lesson they learned included the story of one Carrie Nation. And of course, Carrie Nation was a radical temperance leader. She hated drinking. She hated alcohol. She despised it. And she's best known for storming into saloons and taverns across the country and tearing the living hell out of them with her infamous hatchet. They sometimes called her Hatchet Granny. She really hated liquor. Now, the All Nations brand of whiskey pays homage to Carrie, and the signs that saloon keepers would often hang up in their saloon or tavern that said something to the effect of, "All nations welcome, except Carrie." Yeah, funny, right? Yeah, whatever. So that's the end of the history lesson. So Garrard County Distilling has, or had, however you want to look at it, 3 offerings. And I got something in my eye. When I was at the liquor barn in Danville 3 weeks ago, Danville, Kentucky, they had all 3 there. They've got a single barrel for about $68. They got a small batch for, I think it was $55. And then this one today, it's a blended straight bourbon whiskey coming in at 96 proof, and I paid $39.99. So, Garrard County Distilling started making its own whiskey in January 2024. And while that whiskey was aging or is aging, they've been blending bourbon from 3 Kentucky distilleries to create their product, All Nations Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskeys. So, this one is a blend of 4 to 7-year-old stuff, and each part of the blend uses a different mash bill. One uses 64 corn, 24 rye, 12% malted barley. Another uses 70 corn, 21 rye, 9% malted barley. And the third one is 75 corn, 12 rye, and 13 malted barley. The barrels come from Owensboro, Danville, Boston, and Claremont, Kentucky. And so basically what we have here, what that means, I'm going to translate it for you. It means they're sourcing whiskeys from Green River, Wilderness Trail, and Jim Beam. The bottle. I always like to talk about the bottle. The bottle is very tall. It looks sleek and slender and sexy, and it's kind of basic actually, but dang it, it's just like the Oak and Eden bottle. It's obnoxiously tall. So good luck fitting that one on your shelf or getting it into your liquor cabinet. The mash bill, already gave that. It's a blend, complicated blend, but who knows. And today I'm tasting with my blind tasting podcast, Etched Rocks Glass. And I'm going to crack this bottle open and see what we got. Put that stopper back. There goes the stopper. Anyway, the stopper is on the floor. It is a fantastic wooden and cork stopper. Very, very elegant looking. Love it. Love it. Love the bottle. They've done a great job with that. All right, I want to talk about the color first. Not always, but most often I like to talk about the color. And like I said, you cannot judge the color in the bottle alone. And honestly, this bottle from All Nations might be the exception to that rule. It's the label is very small. It's not very pronounced, and there is a ton of real estate on this bottle that you can actually view the whiskey. Even so, I still say the best way to view the color and kind of gauge that is in your glass. So that's the best way to evaluate it. And I always say the color, it sometimes gives you an idea of the breadth of flavors you're about to put in your mouth. Like I said, in my opinion, the darker the hue of the whiskey in your glass, the deeper the flavors. It's not always true, but it is sometimes. It's worth noting. And I'm going to say it every single time. This one's got a rich amber color. It looks really good. Nothing really else to say about the color. It looks good. We're off to a good start, really. I'm going to talk about the nose. Yeah, it's got a nice vanilla, caramel right away. These are just the notes that you're always looking for with any bourbon whiskey. And I should note, there's no alcohol here on the nose either at 96 proof, and that's a good sign too, at least in my opinion. There's the slightest bit of dustiness going on here, like dusty corn. It's very subtle though. It's very pleasant. Maybe a tinge of leather in here too. And the legs, let me say something about the legs. The legs are not the greatest, but they're also not the worst. I'd say this has got medium legs on it. As I move it around in the glass, how it kind of splashes up on the sides and drips back down. I give it a medium on the legs. Not a ton of viscosity here, but you're going to get my honest opinion. Let me get a sip of this stuff. Light, sweet vanilla hits right away. That's great. Okay, as it rolls over the tongue, I'm also getting a bit of pepperiness. Is that a word, pepperiness? Anyway, I'm getting a little pepperiness. Let me get another sip here. Yeah, that peppery note, I'm still getting a lot of that, but the sweetness is really, really nice. A bit of like maybe nutmeg. It's not overpowering. It's simple, but it's quite good. Let me get one more sip. Okay. Yeah. Wow, this is fantastic. Vanilla, the caramel, a little bit of that, like I said, a little bit of like a nutmeggy. Maybe that's what I was getting instead of the dusty corn. They're similar. So a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of that leather, just a little bit that I smelled on the nose. And I swear there's an ever so slight clove note here on the finish. I got to get one more sip. Hang on. Okay, this is interesting. I'm getting a tea note. Okay, not like sweet tea, but like tea. So if you've ever smelled what a box of Lipton tea smells like before you brew sun tea or whatever, it's that kind of tea note. And if you've ever tasted Four Roses limited edition OESK single barrel, you'll remember that really strong tea note on the finish. Okay, that's not this, but there is a tinge of that tea note here. And there's so many other good notes in here. I'm not going to lie. Even if you'd never told me this had Jim Beam in it, I think most folks could tell. And for me, that's actually a good thing. Anyway, everything, as far as I'm concerned, is playing really well together here. So what's the verdict? Well, I'll have the answer right after the money spot. Are you looking to update your bar or man cave with some great photographs or wall art? Head over to Etsy at famousdocs.etsy.com and pick up some fantastic prohibition, bourbon, and gangster-related photographs and wall art. Okay, guys, You got to check this stuff out. They've got stuff like pictures of Al Capone and John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, all kinds of cool photos from back in Prohibition times. And if you purchase 4 or more items at one time, you'll get 20% off your entire order for a limited time. Check out famousdocs.etsy.com. famousdocs.etsy.com. Now, if you listen to the Blind Tasting Podcast, you know there are 3 verdict options. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to collect it? Or are we going to cull it? To keep it means to proudly display it in your liquor cabinet or bar. This stuff's good for a pour anytime, but there's really no need to stock up on it since it's always available. Collect it. Grab another bottle or maybe grab 2 since you find it so darn delicious, or it just may not be easy to obtain. Cull it. Use it to loosen rusty bolts or sanitize a dirty toilet. In the case of All Nations Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 96 proof, I say, keep it. And I also say maybe collect it. Look, it's a beautiful bottle. Even the stopper, it's got that, like I said, it's that wood and cork. It's very cool. The bottle is sleek. It's sexy. It's different. They've chosen a beautiful blend of whiskeys to put into this nice bottle with whiskey from distillers we all know and we all respect for the most part. I mean, is it perfect? Is it a symphony in your mouth? Well, no, but whoever blended this stuff deserves a big gold star. It's light, it's fresh, and at 96 proof, it's got enough punch to let you know you're actually an adult while you're drinking it. And, I mean, the tasting notes, they just work well together. So my final thoughts? Okay, now that makes me think about Jerry Springer. So my final thoughts, I say kudos on a sub $40 bourbon whiskey. So Garrard County Distilling, if they are in fact a thing anymore, I am really pulling for them. Yeah, I'm pissed off, but I'm pulling for them. And if you can get your hands on one of the All Nations bourbons they're putting out, you should do it.
Do it!
I'm going to keep my ear to the ground, kids, and let you know if anything changes for Garrard County Distilling. But in the meantime, I say grab a bottle, maybe grab 2. You won't be disappointed. Last but not least, I got to give a shout out to the farmers, distillery production guys and gals, warehouse workers, bottlers, and truck drivers. They make it happen. So cheers to all of them. Well, that's all I got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to Apple, go to YouTube. Hit that button. You want to be notified every time I got a new episode out there. And I want to thank you for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your #1 attitudinal bourbon destination.